Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with Spartan Rocketry Club for part 4 of our Estes Antar build, hopefully with audio that actually goes with the video since I will be hopefully talking properly this time. Alright, so in the meantime, one little item worth of note. So I mentioned in the previous video that this seam right in here, uh, the tail kind of popped up after gluing. You can kind of see, if you are an astute observer, that there is a space from about here out to the end, but I managed to get enough glue in there that it should hold without any particular problem. So not a terribly big deal, fortunately. All right, so this front part is taken care of. The remaining things we need to do in this section are deal with the launch lug, deal with the motor mount, and get the fins in place. Let's do the fins, the remaining fins first. So we've got two of them, and they're going to go kind of like this. One of the unpleasant parts about this is that if I have them at the appropriate angles, they're going to be pushing the thing up off the ground because the jig isn't tall enough, which seems like a slight design flaw, but we can handle that. And anyway, I don't really want to be using the jig to keep these fins, to let them dry in place. I'm going to probably just end up standing it upright like so. And I'm probably done with the jig at this point. So in any event, let's get to it. This is going to be our very typical familiar attachment protocol here. So glue goes on, glue gets spread out, wait 30 seconds, and then apply more glue. Now again, to check that, I've got these lines on here. I need to make sure I'm using the right line, of course. It should be the bottom of the two, more interior of the two. But I've also got this bit of angle here. It's a 120-degree angle, so if I do it right, I should be able to put this thing on the tube against the this keel fin, whatever you want to call it, and it should let me know how well I did. I have this upside down, so it kind of redistributed the glue a little bit, which is not really what I wanted to do, but it's okay. No harm, no foul there. So a little more glue, and then we will be ready to attach. So let's do it. Okay. For this part, I got a little bit of glue there, so I'm going to scratch that off. This one also goes right at the end. So I'm going to try to get it as close to vertical as possible. Since all the rest of the glue is dry, it shouldn't be too big of a deal. So I'm going to put the edge of the fin on the line, hopefully in the middle, and then I'm just going to roll it up. That looks pretty good. We'll do the final adjustments. Well, not final, I guess. We'll do the next level of adjustments once the glue sets up a little bit like this. So unfortunately, I need to hold it here in place for the time being. I do kind of wonder with this kit how much of the stabilization the three fins at the back will be providing. Two fins isn't going to cut it, unfortunately, as many aeronautics engineers discovered. Even with an airplane, you need a tail fin that goes the other direction to keep it stable. So these three fins are definitely necessary. It is kind of worth wondering how much control they actually provide. All right, so that's probably enough time. I'm going to smooth this bead of glue out with my finger on both sides. Try not to bump it if I can help it. And then let's see how I did. That looks pretty good. It doesn't, so the piece of wood doesn't quite fit all the way down to the tube like it would here, which I suspect means that the lines I drew on the rocket weren't 100% accurate. Probably should be moved over that way a little bit. However, the angle part, the 120 degrees, looks pretty good. All right. Now I need to, I got a little bit of glue there. Oh, there's some on my thumb too. That's no good. All right, so I want to keep this vertical while I prepare the next fin, get the glue set up. That is probably going to be a little on the difficult side. So I have a box over here that might provide enough. Yeah, that's good enough. All right, so fantastic. More gluing to be done. So, same deal. Feel like it's deja vu all over again. Same process. Now, the thing about model rocketry construction is that there's a good amount of repetition in it, but it's always ever so slightly different. Even building motor mounts, I mean, this one is not particularly hard. I mean, putting all these little, I don't even know what to call them, rounded bits at the end wasn't hard. It was a little time consuming, but everything else about this I feel like I've done 100 times. But the dimensions are always just a little bit different. They're not always at, well, the engine hook is, but all the other parts are always slightly different. So a little more glue. I got it a little heavy at the back end here. That's all right. Okay. Now, moment of truth. I need to attach this without messing up the other fin that I just put on, which hopefully is dry enough that it won't flop over while I'm trying to do this. So, again, fin at the back, in the middle of the line, and roll it up. That looks pretty good. And hold it. I'm going to try to hold it as vertically as possible here. I think I might have pushed I pushed the fin forward ever so slightly when I did that roll, so I pulled it back a little bit. And I keep bumping the ground, and it makes me worry that I'm bumping it with the fin that is wet. But no, it's just the big wing fin. That's fine. That can bump as much as it wants. No problem there. All right, that's probably good. I'm going to, again, clean up that seam. Switch hands here. Still a little glue there. All right. And again, we're going to use the little angle measurement doodad. And this one, I actually get the same kind of problem. It looks like it is, I can't get it flush to the tube. And the angle isn't quite right either. That's easy enough to fix. All right, let's check all three. So all three angles ought to be about 100, well, they should be exactly 120 degrees if we did it right. This looks pretty good. And then the other two, and this one I didn't mess up, so fantastic. All right, the fins on the back are on, and I really don't want to mess with them, so I'm going to put this vertically like so. We have two other jobs to do before the construction part is complete. We have to deal with the launch lug, and we have to deal with the engine mount. I'm going to deal with the launch lug first. And the first thing you need to do is cut it in half, because we're going to use two places. The instructions say use an X-Acto knife. I'm going to use scissors. I also am going to take the time to measure it. I often don't, but you know what the heck, let's do a nice job. So it is 2 inches long, so I need to put a mark at the halfway point, which is approximately there. I end up using scissors. It does deform the tube, but they usually spring back pretty nicely. And I find I deform the tube kind of one way or the other. If I use an X-Acto knife or a hobby knife, it deforms it as well. So, you know, what are you going to do? All right, so the other thing is we need to know, since we have the ruler out, we need to know where on the rocket we are putting the launch lug. And it goes, according to the instructions, at 1/2 inch and 6 inches. So let's, ooh, let's wipe worked out. That was fun. Let's give this a go without trying to do this without knocking anything down. Passing things. All right. I feel like I may have nudged things a bit here, so I want to go check the angle measurements once I'm done with this. All right, so 1/2 inch is approximately there, and 6 inches is kind of right on this little notch right there. This is not something that requires precision, but still. The measurements are there for a reason, so let's make sure they're good. All right, I'm rechecking the fins here because we really don't want to have to readjust things. And I did bump one a little bit. All right, that's fine. Now for the glue, we can put these on at the same time. Remember, I typically don't bother doing 2 coats of glue for these. You certainly can. It wouldn't hurt. But probably not necessary. All right, not straight at all. Remember, we want the line going right through the middle of the lug. And that looks pretty good for the back one. And then the front one. Same basic deal. Get it centered on the line, not centered there as it stands, so I needed to adjust. Okay, so they're basically in place. I need to check and make sure that they are properly aligned. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking down the tube and just kind of sighting it in to make sure that they both seem to be in line and aligned together. And that looks pretty good. All right. That will require fillets later, as will, by the way, I did fillets on the top mostly for this tail issue. I will wait to do fillets on the rest of this until the back fins are thoroughly dried. But the last thing we need to do at this point is to put the motor mount in. So that'll be fun. Motor mount. So, like most motor mounts, I'm going to move the rocket over here for a moment. We are going to need to put some glue down the body tube, and the instructions say to do 2 1/4 inches. You certainly could go get a dowel and measure off 2 1/4 inches just for reference. How far is that? Well, there's kind of a deformation right in here, and then just load up on glue, stick it into the line, and then paint around. I have a pretty good, at this point, feeling for how far that is, so I'm not going to bother with it. But I am going to start painting the glue inside at about 2 1/4 inches. It's not a problem, of course, if you get it less than 2 1/4 inches, because you're going to be pushing through the glue as you push the motor mount into the body tube. So that's not a problem. It's a problem if you put it too far in and the motor mount doesn't get to the glue. That would be problematic. All right, so I know most of that was off camera. It's just kind of a quirk of how things are set up in here. All right, and the other end of the motor mount is going to be basically flush with the end of the tube. So I'm also going to put a ring of glue just on the inside here. And I kind of wish that those fins were totally dry before I start twisting things around, but they're in pretty good shape, so I'm not really worried about bumping things or dislodging things at this point. Should not have any issues with that. Okay. All right. And just quickly, I want to make sure that I have a decent fillet here. I did put a fillet, but in looking at this, it doesn't look as good as it could be. So I'm going to quickly put a little bit of extra glue reinforcement on my motor mount. Unfortunately, I can only do it on the interior sides because, well, on this side there isn't anything, and on this side we've got all those little bits. So there's no place to get your fingers. So a quick little fillet in there. And then we're going to push the motor mount into the body tube. It doesn't really matter which way it goes. Let's see. Yeah. But I'm going to align it. You won't really be able to see this, but I'm going to align it so that the hook is pointing in the line with the launch lug. So in it goes, and there's my final product. Oh, that's not really in focus, but that's okay. This kind of it was actually pretty easy to get it to stop at the right point. Sometimes you have to kind of push it out, pull it back in to get it to stop at the right point. But these little rounded bits seem to have snagged on the body tube just at the right spot. So that's pretty nice. That was convenient. And the hook is basically, not perfectly in line. Now it's better. In line with, there we go. In line with the hook on the motor mount. So that looks pretty good. All right. The generalized construction phase is over. Off camera, I have some work to do. I need to put fillets. I put fillets on the top, but I need to put fillets on the new fins and on the bottom and on the launch lugs, so you don't need to watch that. I also need to do some finishing work, I guess, but that probably should be included in the next video because if you recall, we've got some joints, this joint and these parts right there to worry about. So we will do that in a video. Sounds good. I look forward to seeing you.